Hey guys, what's up? This is Dingocrikey here with another commentary video, this time a general Transformers discussion topic. If you guys are interested in more news and commentary pertaining to Transformers 5, the Transformers Age of Extinction toy line, or general Transformers discussion topics, then please check out my playlist and channel where you can also find over 20 of my Transformers stop motion videos, some of which are previewed here. But this video's topic is going to be who is the better character from the Transformers films, Ironhide or the newly introduced Hound. This topic was suggested by user Captain Kurt Games. I wanted to give a lot of thanks to that user for suggesting this topic. I definitely think there are a lot of reasons that it can be discussed within the Transformers community because these characters seem to get compared a lot. They do share similar roles in the films, and I mean even the toys seem to be kind of similar in ways, like the new Hound figure comes with a bunch of backup weapons, sort of like the one Ironhide did that I believe was released in the Hunt for the Decepticons line. They're both mainly Voyager class figures, so there's definitely a lot of lines for comparison there. And I'm definitely interested in doing more of these versus who is better type of videos. For those of you who might be new to the channel or simply haven't seen it, I had done a previous video like this comparing and contrasting Bumblebee and Hotshot's characters, and basically that wasn't really limited to the films or a particular cartoon series, but I did kind of narrow it down to Unicron Trilogy Hotshot, or even more specifically Armada Hotshot versus Bumblebee in the films. This video, though, is very specifically focused on the film versions of the characters. It isn't taking into account Generation 1 Ironhide or the comics version of Hound or something like that. This is just looking at the films versions of both characters. Would like to say that this video probably will be containing spoilers for all 4 of the Transformer films. If for whatever reason you're not caught up on the films and you don't want the plot spoiled for you or details regarding certain characters, then you probably don't want to watch this video. But with that said, let's get started. So, as mentioned, there are definitely similarities between these two characters, not just in the figures, but also with their characters in the films. One of the main things is that they both serve kind of a tough guy role. That's something we've kind of become accustomed to having in Transformers over the last few years. Definitely with the movies, but also with some of the cartoons. I mean, the main one that sticks out in recent years is Bulkhead in Transformers Animated and Transformers Prime, but even in Transformers Cybertron, we sort of had Overhaul in the beginning of the series. That was kind of like the tough character, and that definitely carried over into the films, with Ironhide being the sort of tough character for the first 3 films, and then Hound taking up that role in Age of Extinction. Now, Ironhide is also more of a muscle type of character, whereas Hound at least seems to be more of like a durable character. He isn't really that muscular. He's actually kind of fat looking, if Transformers can be fat. Cyber cellulite or something like that. But anyways, they both are kind of strong characters. We've seen Hound was able to take down a ton of Decepticons in Age of Extinction, and Ironhide, I mean, I don't feel as though we had as big of a show of strength as we did with Hound, but I mean, he definitely has that sort of persona. They're both also weapon specialists, as kind of mentioned with the toys, how they come with a bunch of weapons, but also in the films. I mean, we've seen Hound go through a ton of different types of guns, use grenades. Ironhide obviously has his cannons and is pretty good with other types of weapons, as we kind of seen in Dark of the Moon. In that area, Hound is sort of like a direct replacement for Ironhide as being the new weapon specialist. I mean, as far as appearance, they definitely have some pretty big differences, but they both are more brawny looking characters. In vehicle modes, they're both more muscular type of vehicles. Ironhide's obviously being a more sporty-looking pickup truck, and then Hound a military vehicle, but definitely like bulkier-looking vehicles. So there is a good amount of similarities between them. So let's look at each character individually. First up, Ironhide. He obviously appeared in the first Transformers film, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, and Transformers Dark of the Moon. He also sort of had a cameo appearance in Age of Extinction, at least I believe he did, when you see them put down the kill cards for the Autobots on the table, and we see Ironhide marked as deceased. As far as his role in those three films, I mean, it's honestly been a while since I've watched them, so I hope I'm remembering this right. But from what I remember, I mean, he had a decent role from what we can expect for a Transformers character in those films as opposed to a human character. But, he definitely didn't have the screen time that characters like Bumblebee and Optimus had. So if you're looking at Bumblebee and Optimus as main Transformers characters, Ironhide is definitely a side or supporting character. I mean, he didn't have a huge role in the films. He did get a good amount of lines. He was in a lot of the action sequences. But, he wasn't a really defined or fleshed out character from the way I seen it. I mean, he did have some funny moments too, but, we didn't get to learn a whole lot about his character, and there wasn't a ton of well-defined interaction between him and the rest of the Autobots. I feel like if the first Transformers film was more like Age of Extinction, with the way Jazz was in the first film, we might see something between him and Ironhide, like maybe Ironhide get a little annoyed with him, or with Bumblebee, you know what I mean? But we didn't really get a whole lot of that in the first film, so yeah, I would say Ironhide didn't have a huge role in the films, but he was definitely way more significant than other Autobot characters, such as RC, Roadbuster, Topspin, and anyone like that. From what we got out of his personality, he seemed to be quiet, short-tempered, serious. He seems to get offended by certain things pretty easily, as when Mojo urinates on his leg, he wants to blow him up, basically. And kind of going along with that, he also seems pretty cold. I mean, he doesn't really show a whole lot of emotion throughout the films. I mean, there definitely are a few moments, but, usually keeps his cool, kind of talks in a steady tone, things like that. So I think that sums up Ironhide. Then we have Hound. Now, obviously, up to this point, Hound has only appeared in Transformers Age of Extinction. I think me and probably a lot of other people are really, really hoping he'll appear in Transformers 5 as well. But right now, all we have is Age of Extinction. As far as his level of importance or role, I mean, he definitely is a supporting character, as he isn't the main one driving the story. But, he's a pretty big supporting character. I mean, he has a lot of lines. We get to see interaction from him with each of the Autobots. I mean, at least with Drift, Crosshairs, and Bumblebee, and even Brains a little bit. And we see him reacting to the death of Leadfoot. So we get to see a lot of his character on those different fronts. We get to see him in combat, when he's taking down Decepticons, when he's about to be defeated. There are definitely a lot of funny moments with him throughout the film. And, he gets a lot of time in the movie. He definitely seemed to be that standout character. In the first film, they kind of said Bumblebee and Optimus were the main likable characters, and they thought of Jazz as sort of the third most likable one. I think that was definitely the case for Hound in Age of Extinction. And, I would say he was almost a bigger deal than Bumblebee in that film, so he was pretty major. As far as his personality, as I mentioned, we got to see a lot of that in the film. He's obviously talkative, loud, funny. Even though he can be mean at times, he definitely seems to be warm-hearted, gung-ho. I mean, he shows remorse at Leadfoot's death, unlike many of the Autobots did at Jazz's death in the first film, unfortunately. But even with those traits, he's definitely still pretty strict about, I guess, Autobot code and following through with the mission, as he doesn't let Crosshairs just run away and go off when Optimus still needs to be saved. I mean, he also seems like a relatively happy guy, and kind of with the Optimus thing, and he seems to be pretty loyal to the Autobot cause, and happy about it, not like some of these other characters who, almost seem to hate what they're doing, or they're like, oh, we just want to kill Decepticons, that's all we want to do. Like, Hound seems like he's more than just that, which is cool. So, reflecting on that, we can see that despite the fact that these characters are pretty similar in regards to their roles, they are really different in a lot of other areas. Obviously, they have different personalities, a different amount of screen time, character development, different relations to other characters, and they even have a different style of combat. But looking at areas such as screen time, we see that Hound in this one film probably had more screen time than Ironhide had in all of the films together. I don't know if I want to say that for sure, but definitely more screen time than Ironhide had in any single film. He also seemed to have more development. Now, if you're considering development, a character going through major personality changes, or the viewer learning a ton about their backstory, I mean, that hasn't really happened with many of the characters in the Transformer films. But we have seen Hound get a lot more development in regards to different sides of his personality and just getting to see his character more. So, as far as development, I would say Hound also has the upper hand. And then, relating to other characters, I mean, both of them have had some, but in the end, I also think Hound has had much better established relationships with other characters. I mean, there was some cool stuff with Ironhide and Sideswipe, taking down the Dreads and some dialogue between them. Ironhide and Optimus pretty much are like a soldier, leader kind of thing. And as mentioned in the discussion of Hound's character, we do get to see him relate with a lot of the different characters throughout the films, human and Transformer characters. So in that area too, Hound definitely wins. So looking at who is the better character by standards of how much time they've gotten, how much development, interaction between other characters, how memorable or lively they were, I mean, I've got to say Hound definitely wins this one for me. I don't really see much of a competition. Now, I know there are a lot of people who really, really like Ironhide, and I think he's a pretty cool character too, but I just don't think there's enough from his character. There wasn't enough that we've seen in the films to really make him a extremely solid character. And while Hound isn't like Rat Trap and Beast Wars on level of a quality character, he might have that potential if they develop him more throughout the films, which they probably won't, but he'll probably get a little bit more screen time. Maybe we'll learn a little bit about his backstory, and that would be cool, but I just don't see any way Ironhide could top him off as a character. Even in a personal sense, I mean, like, which one do I personally like better rather than who is the better character? I like Hound much better. I mean, he's a lot more fun to watch, he's cool, he fumbles around a little bit, but he's also tough at the same time. He's really creative about the way he fights, like using the cigarette to blow a Decepticon's head off and stuff. That was pretty cool. Ironhide has done some cool things. I mean, I think the big scene that stands out is the standoff scene, and even in the first film he had some cool moments, but for me, he just really can't compare with Hound. I mean, going to see the first film and watching Revenge of the Fallen, it was kind of like, I wanted there to be more development from Ironhide because I got the figure and I thought it was really cool. And from what I knew of him in G1 at the time, I thought he was kind of cool. But, it just didn't happen. Hound, on the other hand, I wasn't even expecting them to really go as far as they did with his character in Age of Extinction, and he became one of the most memorable parts of the movie. I mean, there were other memorable things, but a lot of them were really, really bad things. Hound was one of the cool things. He was a really cool character. So, I think that pretty much summarizes my thoughts. I mean, while Ironhide is pretty cool, overall he just had a dry feeling throughout the films, and Hound is just a much more exciting and fleshed out character, and I hope he gets more time in the upcoming film. Now, that's just my thoughts on it. You guys might totally disagree with me, and if you do, that's fine. Just, drop off your thoughts on why you might think Ironhide is a better character, or why you might like him better. Leave that in the comment section below. Maybe you really aren't a big fan of Hound and think he's a kind of annoying character. Maybe you're hoping they'll bring Ironhide back, or, maybe you want a new, strong character. Maybe someone who's, like, different from both of them in a really, like, noble, cold, stoic kind of way. But, not in the kill Decepticons for pleasure kind of Ironhide type of personality. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, along with any topic suggestions you might have pertaining to Transformers 5, the Age of Extinction toy line, general Transformers stuff, or the upcoming Robots in Disguise cartoon. Anyways, that's all I have for this one. If you haven't already done so, feel free to check out my previous Transformers commentary videos along with my Transformers stop motion videos. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and have a good one, guys.